Hello and welcome to the EDRM Global Webinar Channel. My name is Mary Mack. I'm the CEO and Chief Legal Technologist for EDRM. Today's webinar is a collaboration with Nuix. It's called eDiscovery Automation, How Technology is Revolutionizing Legal Challenges. Our faculty experts are David Stromberg and Steve Vranos. We welcome your questions and feedback in the console. Questions will be answered during and at the end of the webinar, and the webinar will be available for replay at your convenience on demand, as are all of our webinars for the next quarter. Kaylee Wallstead, EDRM's Chief Strategy Officer, here with us today. Kaylee, can you come out and tell us what resources are available for our listeners today?
Absolutely. We're very excited about EDRM's On24 platform that has so many more ways for our audience to engage. If you look to the right of your screen, you'll see your console. There's a question mark, and this is where you can type in your questions for today's faculty, and we highly encourage you to do so. The slide deck will be made available after the webinar has concluded, and you'll see a paperclip for related content. If you click on that, you'll see today's resources curated especially for you. There is a PDF for On24's engagement tool descriptions for you to help better engage. There's a link to learn more about Nuix and their fabulous services and offerings. You can also click a link to schedule a meeting with the amazing experts at Nuix. And then up next on EDRM's webinar channel tomorrow, December 14th, Guardians of Data, Ethics and Governance for Legal Professionals in an AI-Driven World. Be sure to save your seat. We have great education all week, so be sure to check out what we have upcoming. Speaker bios can be clicked and popped up to learn more about Steve and David. And just like Zoom, you'll see a smiley face emoji and many more reactions if you click it. And we highly encourage you to engage with them. We're having a lot of fun with them on the platform, and the speakers love to know that you're loving what they're doing. And you'll see a Twitter bird. That is, you can follow EDRM and Nuix on LinkedIn. And back to you, Mary.
Thanks, Kaylee. We have been so looking forward to seeing what's going on with the folks at Nuix. We are so excited to have with us David Stromberg. David Stromberg is the head of product legal solutions at Nuix, and he is going to walk us through. And we also have Steve Vranos, the regional vice president of Nuix, and he is going to lead us through the presentation. Without further ado, Steve.
Well, thank you for that introduction. And welcome, everybody. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join us. In today's session, we're going to talk about three things. First, as we've spoken with our many customers around their challenges, we want to very quickly cover some of the challenges around the data lifecycle. And this is particularly from the point of view of an enterprise or corporation, but of course flows down into their support organizations, law firms, legal service providers, et cetera. And then once we outline those challenges, we're then going to spend a bit of time talking about how the technology really has finally caught up to the problem, that the opportunity for organizations that are in a earlier phase of their eDiscovery and investigatory management have the ability to leverage automation and AI to really take this to another level to reduce both their risk and cost. And at the end, we'll provide a few optional next steps that your team can engage to begin taking advantage of some of the things that your peers in the market have. But as we start, I'd like to ask that you indulge me a bit as I provide an example to help illustrate what our customers have outlined to us as a series of use cases and problems that they deal with on a daily basis. So imagine it's Monday. You wake up, you open up and look at your phone, and at the top of your email, there's an email from someone in your legal department, and the attorney in the subject line, it says urgent, all caps. Now, unfortunately, this is one of 3 urgent emails, and it's Monday and only 8 a.m. And so as you read Lisa's email, she tells you that you've been assigned to a new high priority investigation with two custodians, Sal Smith and Thomas Broman. Now, you're very aware of both of these custodians, as Sal Smith has been affectionately called or nicknamed by your team as Serial Sal, as Serial Sal is the subject of about 18 discovery requests and has data currently in 12 different locations, law firms and LSPs all around the globe. Thomas Broman, his colleague, is known affectionately as Tommy Teams, because he's actually been rated by Microsoft as the fourth most prolific user of Teams in the Northern Hemisphere. You're very familiar with these custodians, and you initially think this is going to be a challenge. As you go to move forward to your next urgent email, Lisa pings you again and says, by the way, we need this in 2 hours, and this time, make sure that the Teams data is deduped and threaded correctly. You shrug your shoulders, you move on to your next urgent email with Franklin follow-up, and Franklin basically says, where are my search term hit reports? Why is it taking a week to get these delivered? So quickly with these two urgent requests, you go to your go-to person, your subject matter expert, Esther. She always is on the job and can solve the problem. And as you reach out to Esther, you're reminded that, oops, she's out of office. She's on safari, the outback of Australia, probably going to visit Nuix while she's there, and she's going to be out for 30 days. And as your heart sinks from your shoulders to the bottom of your feet, you're thinking, what should I do next? Well, at least maybe I need to look at my third urgent email. And this looks like good news. It's from our GC, Casey. And our GC says that funding was approved. But you know in your heart that you have been, this may not be good news, because you've been the head of the steering committee for automation of eDiscovery and investigation, and you've been meeting weekly for 2 years and have no idea that if there's a solution out there to even make this happen. And so Casey's dream of Project Easy Button may not be so easy. So I hope this provides, oh, sorry, forgive me, but when you remembered the two things that you have that actually help you through all of these types of situations in the past is your venti soy latte and your squishy ball, stress ball that you got from Legal Week a few years ago. What else could go wrong? So I hope this illustration, to some degree, hits home with the kinds of challenges that you, your peers, and certainly our customers are dealing with on a regular basis. Challenge number one is the data challenge. Volumes of data, types of data with emerging file types like cell data, Teams, Google, social media, etc. How do you get all that data from all those different places into review at the fastest and lowest cost, mitigating your risk along the way? The second challenge is the resource challenge. You simply can't hire your way out of the problems. Not only are there not enough subject matter experts to go around, and the ones you do have, you're trying not to burn them out, but the very nature of eDiscovery and investigations is not a steady state. You've got the up and down, peaks and valleys, and how do you hire for that? And third and finally is the reporting challenge. If you wanted to get a true chain of custody on a single document, or you wanted to get overall statistics and metrics on a single matter, you'd really, to get the full end-to-end story, you'd have to log into multiple applications, often hosted by multiple organizations, and it simply is impractical, or at least it was. And so these are the kinds of challenges that our customers have been talking to us about solving. And let's pause for a moment, if you don't mind, for a quick survey to start getting some of your feedback. David?
Yeah, so thinking about the problem here, the data problem is actually causing the resource problem. As we add more types of data that we're trying to get to, we tend to add more applications to go after that data, which requires more resources. So this is a vicious cycle that's been happening as eDiscovery is getting more complex. What I'd love to do is I'd love to hear from you in terms of your organization, what your top challenges are. Is it data? Is it people? Is it reporting, or is it all of the above? So if you could take a second and just answer it, then on the next slide, we'll be able to see the results from everybody. Thank you.
And for this survey, feel free to choose more than one option. Let's go to our polling slide and see what we're getting here. We'll give this a minute to give everybody a chance to fill this out. Let's look at the biggest problems are data, the resource problem, or all of the above. Great. Thank you for that feedback. Well, the good news is that the technology really has finally caught up with the problem. And I want to illustrate that initially with a case study with one of our customers. So this is a dashboard of a customer that's been working with us for a few years. And this dashboard reflects from October 22 to October 2023. And we've been able to, through automation, really change and improve the way this organization is doing business. First, we see activity over time. They're able to identify peaks and valleys. Second, tracking how long it takes for data to get into their system from load all the way to review. Is it days, hours, same day? They can track all of that and have that reported. But I think most important here to note is that with the numbers on the side, this organization had over 417,000 hours in Nuix, and they were managing in a single year 10,000 matters, having processed 360 terabytes, and exporting 750 terabytes. Nuix is often used over and over again as a staging area, so data from prior years that were processed were exported. So you combine 750 terabytes, 360 terabytes, petabyte of data. It's a lot of data. The impressive part is they were able to manage all 10,000 cases with one FTE. And this wasn't even his full-time job. He did this mostly, but he had time to do other things. And so automation really changed the way that these folks were able to do business. For our LSP and law firm clients, they're able to take their SMEs and free them up to really provide more billable work and more higher priority work for customers versus all the mundane button pushing. And then we also have for our corporate clients who often are trying to insource and take control over eDiscovery investigations, it gives them the ability to do so without the burden of finding many subject matter experts that they're just not going to be able to find or hire or staff up to. And so automation has been successful, not just for this customer, but for many dozens of our customers. This is an example. But let's take you through a little bit more about what we're doing specifically to play this out a bit further. So here's the solution at a high level. Number one, again, we are managing, or our clients are managing and processing many petabytes of data a year. The solution is not just trusted and proven, but it's easy to use. Whoever would have thought of eDiscovery or investigations and easy? Those are two things that don't normally knock around in the same sentence. So easy to use, integrates with the enterprise ecosystems. Our solution has hooks into 365, Google Workspace, into the Nuix solutions, Discover, Workstation, and Relativity. And when I say we have hooks, these integrations literally go in and allow you to operate and automate native functions within those other applications. Again, you can put documents on hold in place using 365 or automate about 50 different tasks within Relativity. This is true integration. It's also easy to use because of the flexible deployment. Some organizations want a SaaS solution. Some want to have a customer managed cloud when they're Azure or AWS, and some want on-prem, they want the solution on their own tin, and some want a hybrid model. And we have the ability to deploy our software uniquely to deploy this in all of these different deployment options. Fourth, these are some more stats to show it goes beyond that one use case I showed earlier. Number 4 and 5 actually are representative of 24 different customers that about 2 months ago that we pulled data with their permission and just looked statistically across all of them. And what we found was that 90% of these mundane tasks were automated. And interestingly, almost 3/4 of them were done after hours. So imagine a world where your SMEs can go home and maybe get a notification and not have to work crazy hours, because a lot of the execution of collection, processing, et cetera, is happening at night or on weekends. This also increases your speed to review the velocity as well as your overall capacity and to take your technology and get more out of your current spend. And then finally, at the end of the day, it's all about speed to review. And 89% of those jobs, 9 out of 10, got completed the same day. So those are some stats, but let's jump a little bit more into what we're actually doing. Now, because about 95% of the most important data comes from 365 workspace and endpoints, we're going to focus on those in today's conversation. So what we do with our solution is we provide a line of sight to those data sources, the cloud data sources and endpoints. We also are able to facilitate legal hold, integrating, again, with the cloud resources and the endpoints that you can send out legal holds, do your notification, as well as collect to preserve. We also work with third-party legal hold solutions in many of our customers as well. Hey, David, let me bring you back into the conversation. And can you talk a little bit about the value of our legal hold, integrated legal hold solution, and how our customers are leveraging us today?
Yeah, so one of the neat things about legal hold is that you can prompt, based upon how a custodian answers questions, you can prompt a workflow. So, if they tell you that they have, what you're looking for, and maybe in your question you ask them if they specifically have it at, either on their desktop or in their cloud email or another source, you can prompt based upon their answers a workflow that starts. And that workflow, depending upon which one you want to initiate, could be I want to just preserve it, or it could be I want to preserve it, I want to collect it, I want to run a search term in it. Report against it. I want to push it to a review platform, and I want to notify people that I've done this whole thing. So it really makes it so that you can drive action without having to manage every single little step yourself, and you can really have that elegant solution that doesn't require all of those wait states. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks very much, David. You also have the ability to search and place. So at an enterprise level, the ability to have information earlier in the process is enormously important. It allows you to make decisions to move forward with a matter. It allows you to understand budgeting decisions early. It allows you to, with certain kinds of matters or cases or investigations that don't really make it to eDiscovery or don't have the eDiscovery budget, you actually can get information quite early and knock those out without spending a lot of money. And that ability to search in place can be done from an endpoint perspective, and of course, through our connectors to the Google Cloud as well as MS 365. Now, the other thing that we do is data enrichment. And not only are we doing data enrichment for MS 365, we do a great job of Microsoft 365 Teams chat, getting threads put together. We do a great job on that, whether you want to put that in Investigate, put that in Discover, or in another third-party review tool. But we also provide a significant amount of enrichment leveraging our NLP. Now, let me make this point. It's not just what we're doing, but it's when we're doing it. And the fact that you can now apply a natural language process along with the general AI and the enriched data on top of the process data early in the data lifecycle, it's enormously valuable. It goes back to the thing I said earlier about how knowing information early is very important. So for example, our system out of the box automatically identifies over 300 topics. So you're now layering metadata, text, potentially work product, and now topics on top of that as well. This is an unsupervised process, requires no input. It just happens out of the box and automatically. In addition to that, the system also identifies record types. So when we talk about dockered record types, we're not talking about MIME types, like what's a PowerPoint versus a Word document. We're talking about it identifies that document's a patent or that document's an employment agreement. And it goes fairly detailed. David, let me pull you back in here again. And can you talk a little bit about how customers would leverage this kind of information to reduce risk and cost for their enterprise?
Sure. So first off, historically, we've always used date range and doc types and search terms to make objective decisions about what to move forward. What this does is it gives you a whole bunch of additional data to make objective decisions on. So if in your matter, you're particularly looking for, let's say you've got a construction case and you're looking for the contracts, you can, by intersecting the document record types and also the topics, you can say, I'm looking for not just contracts, but I want contracts that are about construction. So that really allows you to just, go right down to, very specific documents and get those things promoted and segmented very early on to give people insights into their case.
That's excellent. Thank you, David. We also support entity extraction as part of the enrichment process. And more importantly, what we call CogX, which is a cognitive approach to regex, leveraging AI with regular expressions to identify patterns. So imagine, for example, you have a 7-digit numeric number. Normally, you might think the pattern there is it's a social security number. Okay, that's great. But what if that social security number was in a employment agreement? It's probably a social security number, or an HR document, probably social security. But what if it was in a product and maybe it was a product number or something else? And what this really allows you to do is to add precision into this process. And whether you're deploying this and using it for eDiscovery and litigation, for investigations, for data privacy, for fraud, whatever it is, you're identifying all this information. And one of the points that I really want to make is you buy the software once, but you can use it many times across all of these use cases. And so you've got this ability to take keywords and to take metadata and record types and document types and topics and put all those together and triangulate those to know more, again, not what you're doing, but when we're doing it very early in the process, which is highly valuable. And it allows organizations not only to deploy this in an on-demand kind of reactive way. I've got a matter, I've got an investigation, I need to react, but you can do this actually proactively, where you can do it at your own leisure. You want to go inventory some documents on a file share, or categorize or identify hotspots within the enterprise. It allows you to do all that with this single solution and use it over and over again for all these different uses. Then those are things that come out of the box. But risk scoring and risk rules are actually user operated. David, can you tell us a little bit about how the user might leverage those?
Yeah, so what risk scoring allows you to do is that you can take for your organization and identify what things are a risk. And you can say, okay, I care about PII, or I care about people talking about money, or this group shouldn't have this type of data, right? Or whenever I have spreadsheets that contain social security numbers or tax identification numbers, I really care about that. You can assign scores to those, and then that scoring can basically bubble up all of that data. You can build multiple scores. It's based upon what works for your organization and what you want to do, and then off of that, you can build dashboards and Power BI, which is what you're looking at here.
That's excellent, David. Thanks. So imagine you have one document that's a kind of a regular document and one that's got 5 instances of PII. It's marked confidential and the record type is patent. That second document might be a high risk score, especially from a data privacy concern. But you could take those same risk scores and apply them to investigatory use cases, eDiscovery use cases, fraud, detect fraud, et cetera. There's so much that you can do with this. But not only can you build on-demand risk profiles, but you also can take all the things I talked about earlier, the record types, the topics, the cognitive regex, and you can build those on demand. And as we all know, if you have litigation, there are certain things that are case or matter specific in terms of topics. Organizations have sometimes a very unique approach to what they want to do, and there are topics and there are issues and things that are specific to that organization. And so you can have different departments and different users in different departments create all of these different models to identify those documents much earlier in the process for all of the use cases we mentioned earlier. The ability to do this on demand really enables users to create opportunities to learn more about their data and then automate that, which leads us to our next stage. Now, we've laid out so many things that you can do: data sources, keywords, the metadata, enrichment, all of that. And it becomes a little bit overwhelming because the question is, well, how do we adopt that? We need an army of people to make this work. And as we talked about earlier, you really don't need an army anymore through automation. As with our automation, we've got many dozens of customers today automating over 100 workflows that are available out of the box, or can be tweaked to your purposes, or you can create your own automated workflows. And you can create all these different workflows, and our team can help you create those. David, can you talk a little bit more about automation and how customers leverage that today in the market?
Yeah, so often is they take a look at the existing workflows. They decide to take something that they're doing today, and they try to find a good match. But they then take that, they might tweak it a little bit, or we may have one out of the box that just works for them. And oftentimes they just take that, plug it in, and they start going. That's sort of a phase one from an adoption standpoint. At that point, they look for items that are outside of that workflow, maybe that they're very specific to their organization, and they can start integrating more and more processes. So for example, if they've got a system they want to update, which is used for reporting, which maybe they generate bills from, as an example, they can add a stage into the workflow that calls into an API or sends out SQL, and the workflow system is customizable, so you can do this. And so you're like, I'm going to send an update based upon this export or this processing event. I'm going to push it to this other system, which is where my reporting happens. So it allows you to have the system that then you can take and automate all of the other things that you're doing, maybe that are outside of sort of the core eDiscovery process, but everything else hinges on. You can even have this tied to your ticketing system or your manner management system, because the system can actually be called directly through APIs as well. So really, you can take your current processes and look at it. Then you can look at horizontally what additional things that you want to do. You can add things like legal hold if you want, or you can take the integrated collections, and you can just build out that process. You'll get the huge value up front by just automating your eDiscovery processes, but then you can then take everything across the EDRM and gradually blend them in or integrate into existing systems.
Excellent. And, David, I think that's really well stated. I'll just also mention that although there are workflows and automation available out of the box, we work with you as a team to come in and provide, consulting and share best practices on how to do that. We try to take a very prescriptive approach on how others are doing this in the industry, because at the end of the day, automation is fantastic, but it needs to be adopted. And along with the very unique technology, we also have the teams available to help you drive your automation to reduce your risk and cost. Now, the other thing about this integration, as we talk about having automation and we've got hooks into all these different data sources, is the ability to really improve reporting and dashboards, and candidly to provide things that clients have talked about but really haven't even imagined that they can get. And these are kind of some minor examples, but with the kind of integration that we have, the kind of reporting you can get is really much different than what you may have seen in the past, especially at a strategic level. So David, would you mind maybe walking through a few of these dashboards just to provide a sample of some of the kinds of reports that people could create as part of their process?
Yeah, so when I think about the reporting, so today, if you look at the EDRM model, we have lots of boxes. We have data governance, we have, the pressure, et cetera, analysis. In between those boxes, we have all these arrows. And what those arrows are, you have to take in a manual way, export something here, send it over there, and then the reporting becomes very difficult. When you have a system that is integrated, you can report across it. Effectively, those little lines are all handled by this system, which means that you can then have a thin line of reporting that goes across the top to answer questions. So for example, here we're looking at, in terms of legal hold, who's on legal hold, what custodians are involved, how have they responded, what stage we're on. So you can dive into a specific area, or you can actually dashboard across. If you want to go to the next dashboard, we can look at something that goes across the data. So this is a system where we're in this particular dashboard. And all these dashboards are built in Power BI. These come from templates that we provide to you. They can also be customized as well. So this is an out-of-the-box dashboard. Right now, we have this filter to all clients, all custodians, right? And so we're getting an overview of everything to try to look at the performance of the system, right? How much data is coming in and out of the system? and then we can actually drill down to individual matters to say, well, which matters are performing differently? Like which ones are faster? Do we have some that are anomalies that are really slow? And what's going on there, right? Is there a particular data type that's slowing us down? Do we have, search terms that are inefficient or just really complex? Is there something we can do about that? So this is one that allows you to look across the performance of the entire enterprise, which really helps with estimating. If you have a client that has send multiple matters, they have a particular data type, you can go say, okay, it typically takes this is how many gigabytes we typically get per hour from their data. So that gives me great information when it comes to figuring out the timeline. Go to the next slide. This one is really about the trends of your organization. So where are you trending? How much data are you sending through, and what bucket does it fall in? So this allows you to, understand what your budget is, how much you're going to be spending next year, how much work are you going to be is attributed to, sort of billable things versus not billable, and are you properly resourced based upon your growth, right? So this is more about the productivity of the system. Jump to the next one, and then. This again, you can gain insights into the data to understand where you're pulling data from. So is it, what are the time ranges that are involved? Who are your serial custodians that are always involved in cases? And then, what type of tagging and percentages are we getting across there? So again, data that is today very difficult to understand. You might have it on a per case basis, but trying to get it across all of your cases is extremely difficult.
And David, I'll jump in here on this last dashboard. This is one of my customers at their request. What they were trying to do was a Fortune 50 company that wanted to have a better sense of what was going on with their data once it left their domain. And effectively, we're able to reach into relativity instances and discover instances for LSPs and law firms, and to understand which custodians are with which matters and have which tags. Now, this gives them at a minimum the ability to inventory that, but more than that, it gives them the ability to drive remediation decisions, to identify risk, to identify potential cost reduction opportunities, reuse of work product, et cetera. And so with the integration that we have, again, throughout these different data sources and the ability to aggregate that data together, this is something that people want, and maybe living on a spreadsheet that 6 different people are updating manually. This allows you to truly do it. The last thing I'll say about automation is when you look at organizations and where they've been, and there's a lot of organizations that are very sophisticated and have designed many, great playbooks. The challenge with all of that is taking the playbook and your very smart people and being able to really implement it in a way that's defensible and repeatable. And it removes some of the single points of failure, both human and non-human. And this really allows you to build these defensible, repeatable processes, to report on them and to automate them. And so, you get a chance to really save money, reduce your risk, and create a better work environment for people that don't have to work late into the night as often due to automation. So that's the high level of approach of some of the things that we're doing. One of the last things I'd like to step through is that there are some steps that you can take to potentially engage with us if you're interested. The first one is for our customers that are on the line right now, and I see some of you out there. Thank you for joining. We have something called Baseline, and so at no cost, we'll come in, you click on a link, installs Baseline, which is part of a function within Rampiva. And very quickly, this will come in and take a diagnostic and get you metrics about utilization of your workers, about volumes, peak capacity, that sort of thing. It's at no cost, and it's a little piece in one dashboard of Rampiva, but it will give you a sense of some of the data points that you might want for making decisions around your business. And we do that again at no cost. And the second opportunity, again at no cost, is we've been meeting with customers to talk about workflow and automation. And most of our customers will share, we're here, here's our playbook, here's what we're doing today, but we want to be here, right? We want to be able to get data out of 365 faster. We don't want to rely on that index necessarily. We want to be able to move data directly from point A to point B to point C to point D without touching it. And sometimes we do want to touch it. And so we want to have different types of scenarios. And so we'll sit down with an organization for about an hour and a half to have an initial working session to look at the practical nature of what we can do to help you, and give you a sense of about how much, what we can do and how much it's going to cost. And then you have everything you need to make a decision on whether or not it makes sense to move forward. And so those are some of the areas. Of course, thirdly, you can just reach out to us, email us, and we'd be happy to set up a meeting to provide a demo or talk about the things you'd like to speak about. And as we wrap up here, I think we have one last survey.
Yes, we do. And where can people access that survey? If you look in your console to the right, under your engagement tools, you'll see Take a Survey. I've highlighted it to make it easy for you to do. It takes 2 minutes, and we would be so grateful. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you very much. So while you're taking the survey, I wanted to just take this moment to, again, thank you for attending. We hope that this was an informative webinar for you. For our customers out there, and again, I see you on there, thank you so much for joining. Feel free to reach out to me or to your account manager. Happy to discuss this with you further. And for those folks who aren't current customers or our partners, again, happy to engage with you to answer any questions you might have. Again, thank you so much for attending, and we look forward to solving problems together with you in the future.
And back to Mary Mac. Well, this does conclude our webinar for today. We thank Nuix so much for making Steve and David's insights available to all of us. What an enjoyable and insightful discussion. And we thank our listening audience for your participation and for attending. Have a great day, everyone.